Hey guys, welcome back to the Spruce and Linen channel. I'm Janelle, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do what I'm calling a free weave. So I've gathered some materials and tools, and I'm just sitting down without a plan and making a mini woven wall hanging. So let's get started. This video is brought to you by the Spruce and Linen shop, where you can find weaving looms, kits, tools, and supplies. Link in the description box below. Before I get started weaving, let's talk about the tools I'm going to be using. Here in front of me, we have our flat pack frame loom, flower weaving comb, maple tapestry needle, a couple different pairs of scissors, a metal yarn needle to tuck in ends, a dowel to hang the piece from, and a piece of cardstock to keep everything really nice and sturdy on the bottom. Next, we'll talk about the weaving materials I'll be using. I want to keep this weaving pretty simple and mainly focus on wool roving for the main material. But some other materials that I have, I'm going to use 412 linen warp string. You can find this in my shop, and I'll link everything in the description box below as well. I have some 5mm recycled cotton string or cotton rope. This is from Unfettered Co. We have some Lion Brand Woolies Thick and Quick. And then these wool colors in front of me are all from my shop. I grabbed a few. I'm not sure I'm going to use all of them, but I'll let you know what they are. This one is cinnamon, moss, fir, chocolate, ash, and sand. Okay, so I'm gonna just jump right in here. I'm gonna toss my big roll of string down there, as well as my main yarn as well. And just always as a good tip, when you are gonna warp your loom, grab a bowl or a jar or something that you can toss your spool of warp string in so it doesn't bounce all over the place. I just pre-cut this dowel at 9 inches. It's a good standard size for this particular loom. And I'm going to start warping. I plan to hang this weaving directly from the top loops of the warp. So I'm gonna make sure that I both start and end my warp on the bottom. So I wove in my cardstock at the bottom, and now I'm just going to do a row of twining and then a few rows of plain weave. Okay, next I'm gonna add fringe. I should have done this beforehand, but you know, I jumped the gun. So I'm just gonna use the loom going this direction as my guide. And I'm just using the 5mm cotton rope. And I think I'm gonna do 2 strands of it per group of my fringe. One thing I like to do is actually tape down my loom since I'm working on the flat so you guys can see. And even just with this loom in general, I really like doing this. I just use some painter's tape and then I can press it down onto the table, and now it's not going to move on me. Okay, now I'm ready to start weaving. And like I said, I didn't really plan what I was gonna do. I just kind of wanted to use this very fall color palette, and I want to mainly focus on merino wool roving so that it just takes up most of the weaving. I'm gonna take off my rings because If you haven't worked with merino wool roving before, it'll get caught on things like this. So I'm gonna set these aside. And I'm trying to decide what color I want to start with. I'm kind of leaning toward starting with the darkest color, which is this chocolate. And it's called chocolate, but it also reads a little burgundy, which I really love. And then I'm gonna kind of see, like, where do I want to take this? And do I want to work with one color at a time, mix them all throughout? Do I want to kind of like weave one color throughout? So like adding it back in. I'm not entirely sure. Do I like this green better? Okay. I don't know. But I'm just gonna start. I'm gonna take a decently long piece of this chocolate. And yeah, I'm gonna just see where I wanna go with this. I think I want it to be like a little bit more of an organic type shape. And there's a few ways I can do that. I can build it up with sumac stitch, but I almost wanna challenge myself to maybe not use sumac stitch. So what else could I do? I'm almost wondering if I could do, first of all, I don't know if I want to use the full thickness, but so this is more like, what am I doing? You guys, I really just wanted to play around and weave, and I thought, you know, I'm gonna film this. I'm wondering if I should almost do sort of a, like an Egyptian knot, which is kind of what this is, but I'm just kind of wrapping around. Okay. I'm kind of liking that. I can tell right away it's pretty bulky, so I don't know if I want it that bulky. So I either need to work around more strings at a time, or maybe use half the width. I think I'm gonna go half the width and split that apart. So I want to go like this. Now that almost feels kind of thin, but just winging it. Okay. So what I just did there was, instead of just stacking the little knots, because this is basically just an Egyptian knot, I'm actually gonna like stagger those knots. So see how they fit in a smaller space now, and we're already creating that organic shape by doing this. Ooh, I really like this texture. All right. It almost reads like, in this color, it's almost reading as like sort of a pebble type texture. And now I'm just like, do I want to go all the way across? Do I want to turn around and sort of create, you know, an organic shape, which I think is what I want to do. So I'm going to just turn around. Except I think I needed to go under this way. Sometimes it feels tricky to work backwards. And then this end, I'm just gonna kind of weave over and just like tuck it in there. Okay. So now I'm trying to decide, because this weaving is gonna be quite small, I'm wondering if this is too big of a chunk right here, because I'm gonna be ending kind of like right here. So I think I think turning around was maybe not the right decision. So let's just take that out and decide where it should end. Yeah, I think I like it better just as like this thin little section. So I'm just gonna do that. Tuck this back down in there. Okay. Now I think I'll do just like a couple of rows of plain weave, just so that I'm maintaining some sort of structure in behind these chunky sections. This is something I like to do just to make sure that things don't just like wobble out on you once you get it off the loom, because there's nothing more disappointing than having something that looks great on the loom and then you get it off and it's just like not good. You can see how it kind of just like holds everything in place too. And since I'm gonna do more wool on top, I'm gonna tuck this in by just going back a few strings. And I'll just cut off the excess. And now we can move on to another color. So this is the part that gets, what color should I do next? And like, where do I want this color to go? Do I want it to come down opposite of this one? Do I want to go right over top like that? I do really like this green. I feel like this green, I actually don't know. I don't know which green to use. And I don't think I want to do the two browns next to each other. So maybe I'll go orange next and kind of see what that looks like. I think I'm gonna split it again. On these smaller pieces, I really like using a half thickness of the roving just because, again, I don't necessarily want it to be super intensely bulky, but you do you. So now I'm just going over to under 2, and I kind of want to decide, like, is this the texture that I want? Which, I mean, I guess it's kind of gonna look like a similar texture to the previous section. It's just more linear. But it can be really nice to kind of switch up the textures, the stitches, so that you are getting a little bit of a different texture. And how do I feel about that? I kind of think I want to do the green there. And do I want to do this green or this green? I think it's this green. I was trying to do something with like earthy tones. Okay. And maybe I want to do like a half sumac, you know, right after I said I wasn't going to do sumac, but I kind of just mean like I wanted to try to do something that wasn't like the full-on braid look and do something a little bit more, I don't know, just different. So I think I like that. I think the next section I'm going to kind of try to go up this way a little bit. I am going to just do that. And I'll tuck everything in later. Back in with, will I get 2 rows? A couple rows of plain weave. All right, so now I think I want to use this beige. And I'm basically going to go in and do the same thing I did here, so that Egyptian knot look. And we'll see how that turns out. Okay, so I've got some of that beige in there, and I want to start coming in with this orange. I kind of like the way that this is turning out. Sometimes when I'm creating, actually pretty much every time, let's be really honest. Every time I'm creating a new piece, there's so many moments of like, does this look good? Do I even like this? Was that the wrong decision? And that's just what it is. But sometimes I find, and what I most often find, is that you kind of have to just keep going. Sometimes you're not always going to know if something is the right thing until you've gone a little further. And so far, I'm really liking this. Now I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, am I going to continue this as like a pattern where I'm doing like the Egyptian knot, half sumac, Egyptian knot, half sumac, or do I want it to be a little bit more random than that? So like, could I do a different stitch with the wool roving right now? So I'm not entirely sure, because I mean, I could also just literally do over 2, under 2, plain weave, and see what that looks like, and sort of have this orange be a bit of a thinner part. And then I would also I am kind of liking that this would be a little bit more random. So you can see me too, like sometimes I will, once I add that plain weave in, I will emphasize these curves that are happening by just like pushing everything down a little bit more. Obviously you have to be careful not to do it too much, because it might sort of get overly dense in areas, but see, I kind of want the middle to be down. We'll let that come up a little bit. See, and that's giving us a more dramatic, slightly more dramatic curve. And then with this piece, I think what I want to do, because I kind of want to build this up on this end a little more, I'm going to pull this out a little bit more, and I'm going to just do plain weave the opposite of that, but only part way. So I'm going to tuck this down in here and just see what that looks like. Do I like that? See, I don't like that. Okay, so that wasn't the thing. Could I just put that around twice? Basically what I'm trying to do is not have this start to really fall down on the side. And I think by double wrapping the edges that worked pretty well. And then what I could do coming back down this way is I can kind of see, I don't want to see the in-between stitches too much, but at the same time, does that really matter? Okay. So I've kind of pulled up little bunches just a little bit to hide the yarn going in between a little better because you can't see it anywhere else in this piece. I don't really want to suddenly be seeing it a whole bunch in there. This part is stumping me, and I don't know if it's that I don't like the orange or I don't want that stitch, because I mean, I don't have to use the orange, right? So I could go back to the burgundy and just like start staggering the colors from here on out. I could add this brown color in. See, I'm almost wondering if it's just like I might be feeling like the orange is too much. I'm gonna get some yellow. So I had a thought, I don't know if it's gonna work, but I was like, maybe I'm feeling like the orange is, you know what? Maybe I'm just not liking the color. This is why sometimes these things can take so long. And I'm sure some of you are like yelling at the screen right now, no, do this. Okay, I want this to have fall vibes, so I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm gonna do a bit of a sumac stitch like I did with the green. Just sort of in the opposite direction. And let's see how that looks. Now, because I already have 2 rows, I have several rows of plain weave right there. When I go over this one, I think I'm just going to not go all the way across. So now, because I already have this burgundy on the left, I'm not sure I want to do that again on the left. Like I kind of want to start bringing that to the other side to provide some balance instead of just keeping the same exact colors. So what I might do is go back with one of the other colors now, or maybe I should add in a 5th color. You know, like that looks kind of cool. Yeah, I think I'm gonna add in this gold after all. And that's the trouble with me having only picked 4 colors at first. So this time around I did sort of that Egyptian knot situation, and then I did the sumac stitch over top because, like I said before, I kind of want to avoid having the yarn that's in between everything show. So I figured if I did it that way, I might be able to hide it better. And I'm really liking the way this turns out. And I hope you understand what I mean now about how sometimes you just have to keep going to know if you're liking how it looks. Because at first I was really unsure. And then once I just kept going and got some more layers on there, I started to realize like this does look really good, because it's easy to get caught up on one little section because it seems like that's all you're looking at, but then once you have other stuff laying on top of it, it can sort of start to come together a little bit more. So now I'm gonna go and do some of that Egyptian knot with this green. So you can see how I'm staggering all the colors, bringing, you know, the color, this color was over here, down on this end, and then up here I wanted to get it on the other side so I could start creating some balance. And now also I have the Egyptian knot here, whereas I have the half sumac here. So I'm just kind of trying to alternate everything so it feels more cohesive. And now I'm going to do some of that Egyptian knot with a green. So now I'm going in with the beige to do some sumac stitch. And I'm gonna have to end this weaving pretty soon here because I want to have enough room to wrap these loops around the dowel. And I'm just not entirely sure how much I'll need. So I might have to switch to a thinner dowel yet, but we'll see. So now to start trying to bring up, like this is going down quite a bit. I'm gonna try to bring that up a bit by letting this be really bulky on this end and then coming over here, I'm just like pulling it tighter so that it thins out a little bit more on the other end. See, and then over here, I'm just realizing that it is going down quite a bit on this very end. So I am gonna wrap that all the way around. Let's see here. Gonna let that go all the way to that end. Okay, so now I need to go back in with some orange. And again, I'm gonna be trying to bring up this end a little bit so that I can start getting back to being straight for the top. So we'll do some Egyptian knotting again. I almost feel like I should have done maybe 2 knots. So I'm just gonna tuck this around again. Just really want to bulk up this very edge a little bit more. All right, so I'm pretty much done. I'm really hoping this isn't like too insanely bulky once I get it off the loom. But you can see I've got that pretty straight at the top. All I'm gonna do at the very top is just add a quick twining stitch so I can make sure that things are kind of locked in place. Okay, so I'm basically done weaving now, but now I need to flip this around and just really get all those ends tucked in. But I'm really liking how this is looking. There's a couple spots where my white yarn is sort of poking through, none of which I think are a big deal at all. And I'll quickly show you, because it has been a while on the channel since I've shown you how I like to tuck in ends. Like you can see, things are real crazy back here right now. This one's gonna be a little bit tricky because there's a lot happening back here. I'm going to grab a plastic needle. One tool I didn't mention, I kind of love these little plastic yarn needles for tucking in bulkier ends because the the eye is big, but the needle is short. So it makes it a little bit easier. So right here, I'm just going back through some of those warp strings where I had been before. I'm gonna go through just a few. And then I'm gonna use my smaller scissors and I'm just going to cut off the end. And I like to leave a tiny little bit of a tail there so that it doesn't want to just immediately slip out. So in this section, I think what would be best, like this is, again, this is a very bulky weaving. And we'll take off this tape so you don't have to stare at that. But these ends, I'm basically just gonna loop it back through this loop that's happening back here. And I'm probably just gonna do 2, because I think that's more than enough to keep things in place. And then these yarn strings can be tucked in the way I've shown you guys lots of times before, but I'll just show you one more time. So I'm just gonna pick a couple loops here to go through, pull that through, and then just cut it off. Don't cut too close. And I'm just gonna do that for the whole back. Okay, so I have all of my ends tucked in. You can see that because I had it face down, it kind of flattened the front a little bit. So now I'm just gonna, you know, make little adjustments, make sure I'm liking that all. I think it looks really great. I'm going to work on the bottom now, and I'm just going to cut these loops open. Then I'm actually gonna flip this over and get that off of there. And I'm going to tie overhand knots and then tuck all these ends in. Okay, so now I'm ready to attach this to the dowel, and I'm just kind of hoping that these loops fit. So let's check. I think they're like just going to fit, which is fine by me. And I just need to decide if I want to do them as groups or not. I think I'm going to do them in groups of 2. And I'm just doing the method where I'm grabbing 2 loops, opening them up, flipping them forward, and then bringing those loops together. I've shown this in quite a few videos, so I'll put some links up here if you want a longer demonstration of this. And I'm just going to do that all the way across. All right, so the last thing I need is a hanging string, and I can tell I've got a little bit of a situation back here. This has flipped up. Ooh. Just trying to tuck all that in so it doesn't stick out in the front. And all I need now is my hanging string. I'm trying to get this straight here. Oh yeah, that's not bad. I probably could have added a little bit more structure on the top, but I really didn't want to see the yarn, so I just did a simple twining stitch. And now I'm just gonna kind of straighten out the fringe a little bit. I'm just eyeballing it because I don't really mind if it's not perfectly straight. I'm kind of liking that look a lot more now just because it's so much faster. And for me personally, things like that, if it's faster, it's more enjoyable. But I do really like a straight fringe too, but I think with cotton rope, it really it's hard to get it perfectly straight anyway. So that's why I like to kind of just make it mostly straight and not worry about it too much. Okay, took that one. And that looks pretty good to me there. All right, you guys, I hope you've enjoyed this new kind of episode where you can just kind of weave with me. Is that what we should call it? Maybe we should call it weave with me. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below if you like this format of video and if you're gonna try weaving like this one. If you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications when I post new videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.